I was diagnosed with the umbrella term of IBS, or Irritable Bowel Syndrome. I'd say bobbing and weaving on different levels of medication, suffering some quite extreme side effects at times. And I know I'm not alone out there. I know many people suffer from that. Going back about a year ago today, the symptoms I started to experience were a lot worse. They got to the point where they were quite debilitating. I went from, over a period of about probably 8 months, I went from 92 kilos down to 62 kilos. I was suffering quite extreme side effects. They were debilitating in terms of where I could go, traveling. Obviously, being a husband and father, it was debilitating in terms of work. I kept the head down, kept going. Obviously, was in and out of hospitals, was doing my checkups and all the things there. But it led to a point where I, in October, ended up in the back of an ambulance, and the conditions and the underlying side effects had hit, I'd say, fever pitch. Ended up in hospital.
You were down in London at this point as well, weren't you? You were away from home.
I was away from home. I managed to get back up the roads, and eventually back into hospital, and I had great healthcare and great support from many different people. Some of the big things that happened to me was actually a doctor that sat me down and said to me that your body is screaming at you. You know, we don't know essentially what's happening underneath. We don't know the kind of what's causing it more than anything. Why the weight loss? Why the passing of the blood? And I couldn't retain food. I really had quite a hard time of just functioning on my everyday. And at that point, the doctor sat me down and said, "Your body's screaming to stop. You need to stop. You need to give us time to start to investigate this and to get to the bottom of it." That same day, I also sat down with a dietitian, and a real big awakening moment. With the dietitian used an analogy with me that really, really struck me. And it struck me in many ways. And that analogy was, if I was to have one car for the rest of my life, what would I do with that one car? So of course you get thinking about this car. I'm thinking, I'm going to put it in a garage. I'm going to make sure it gets waxed. I'm going to make sure it gets washed regularly. I'm going to make sure it gets serviced. I'm going to make sure that the premium fuel goes into that car. I'm going to make sure that the oil's done regularly. Make sure that everything is kept prim, proper. Make sure that I drive it properly. All of those great things.